Well, with rising costs and shrinking revenues, some argue that a shift in Canada Post's business model may be necessary. Joining us to discuss this is Steven Tufts. He is a labour expert from York University, and he is joining us tonight from Sydney, Australia. Thanks for being here, Steven. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, let me get your first thoughts on the strike here, and then we'll zoom out to the Postal Service and its business model right now.
Well, the Postal Service is largely based on a model that delivers letters. And the problem is, of course, as many of us know, the volume of letters has decreased by over 50% over the last 15, 20 years. And that presents a challenge for the Postal Service on how to go forward. I think what the CUPW is trying to signal is that if there's going to be restructuring, and I think CUPW is open to different business models, it's not going to be on the backs of workers and based on a decline in living standards and working conditions for the postal carrier workers who work at the post office right now. And that's why they've, for a number of years, not just this round of bargaining, this goes back decades, they've tried to pressure the Postal Service to broaden their mandates, to expand their business models, to offer a range of new services for Canadians, especially in rural areas and remote areas, in underserved communities and cities, with things like postal banking, with wellness checks for seniors. There's a range of things that other countries do to maintain their post office, and I think they've been trying to pressure Canada Post to do that. And up to this point, Canada Post has just been really slow to sit down and try to think of a strategy beyond trying to get into the very competitive parcel market.
Okay, and let's talk about the parcel market for a second, though. Amazon, for example, how much has that company taken a bite out of Canada Post business?
Well, of course, as Amazon expanded its parcel delivery, especially during the pandemic, it went to a whole range of different techniques to get parcels to people. A range of subcontracting companies that will deliver parcels through really intricate networks using computer-aided and artificial intelligence to make those transitions seamless. And that has been difficult because those workers are paid less than workers at Canada Post. Now, it's interesting that some of those workers are unionized, such as the Teamsters, and they have said that they won't deliver parcels that are traditionally delivered by CUPW members.
Canada Post has lost money for 6 straight years now. How sustainable is this current model that they have without, as you say, reinventing itself, without making these major changes? And why do you think there is kind of pushback to that?
Well, I think the pushback really is what do they know, and what are they comfortable with? Mm-hmm. This is a large corporation. It's a crown corporation. It has different mandates from the state. It is supposed to service all of Canadians, just not densely urban areas such as Toronto. We all don't live in Toronto. There are remote communities that require these kind of services and connectivity. And they simply have been hesitant to really look at the model and I think expand it and think outside the box than they put themselves in. And of course, competitive pressures have challenged them.
What are you going to be watching for in the coming days, and how quickly do you think that this labor dispute can come to an end?
Well, I do think that there is some leverage that workers have in this case because of the holiday season. That's been mentioned. But I'm really, really interested to seeing what McKinnon does in this instance. They've just legislated the port workers back. They legislated rail back. Workers' right to collective bargaining, even though it's charter protected and to many extents, is being eroded, as the commentary just said. But will they actually pull the trigger and legislate postal workers back to work? And they've done, in Canada, that's been done before. That's been done by conservative governments, by liberal governments. That's something that's in our history. But that's something that the government is not always willing to do because it isn't popular with workers. And I do not believe that arbitration is the best result for CUPW. I think they are at a disadvantage with Canada Post if it does go to some kind of arbitrated settlement.
Okay, Stephen, got to leave it there. Appreciate your time and perspective tonight. That is Steven Tufts, a labor expert at York University, joining us from Sydney, Australia this evening.